Welcome to Man Talk 133 with Charles and Darl, the movement dedicated to empowering men, uniting brothers, and building a strong coalition. This is more than just a conversation. It's a call to action. Join us as we uplift, support, and inspire men worldwide. Because together, we don't just talk, we lead, we grow, and we conquer. Are you ready to be part of the coalition? Let's dive in.
Welcome to Man Talk 133 with Charles and Daryl. Welcome
Yes,
everybody into the show this evening. What's going on, brother?
Ain't nothing, bro. How you feeling, man? How you feeling?
Man, we doing all right, man. You know, I've been a hot week, bro. It's been a
Yes,
very,
sir.
very, very, very hot week. So
No doubt.
yeah, man. So, I got a youngin. He 22, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Gen Z
Okay.
and versus the old school, right?
Right.
So, and how do we, you see the title, how do we bridge the gap?
Okay.
So the difference between, I'm trying to say it so I won't, step on the Gen Z toes because, they sensitive. Some of them.
You got to set the table. Set the table.
You know what I'm saying? So the difference between the Gen Z and the older people is the Gen Z think they know everything. And the Gen Zs say the old folk think they know everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to, I guess my question to you is, what is your thought on the Gen Z versus the older people? I know we done been there, because I'm going to break down some stuff in this show that's going to kind of, give the differences, the compare and contrast, and then kind of, go into how we can try to bridge the gap.
Man,
you got a young one.
Yeah,
we got all young ones.
Yeah. I think, man, we learned ours organically.
Mm-hmm.
Our life or whatever, the do's and the don'ts. And these guys here, the new people, man, they getting it kind of, I guess secondhand or whatever. But I guess like you said, they think they're smarter than us, with the smartphones and all of that. But like I said, man, I always thank my Old Testament teachers, who didn't have a whole lot to work with.
Yeah,
but they taught us the fundamentals, man. And cause I can tell you right now, we can spell, the old school people, we can spell better than the new school. And I guarantee you, we know more definitions, because it was just the other day, I was a kid. They asked the kid, back, Lord, you get amnesia? And they was like, what's that? Like, you know what amnesia is? And they was like, what's that? Some kind of hearing loss. And, it was like, what I'm saying? So it's like, they think they're smarter than us, but they're really not. What the deal is with them, they try to trump us is they may be, if you want to use this, they may be more stylish than us because of their era.
Well,
think
about it though. Everybody had their era. They had the era of the bell bottoms and afros, and the platform shoes. Our era was the suede Pumas with the toothbrush, and with the creases and the cuffs, fold your pants under. So I can't give them that. I can't give them this, because we used to be fly too, with the Kangos, the Kangaroos, the British Knights, you know what I mean?
Shell told the but I guess what, like I was saying, you can correct me, man. Like if I'm getting off, because what I can't get it, I'm like you, I can't put my finger on it. It's not that they're more stylish than us. I'm thinking they are more. This new generation is more, I'll say, tech savvy.
I tell you what you're trying to say with the new generation, with the clothes, they're more willing to they're more willing to just try it. Like they don't have to have back in the day, you would have to have old school would have everything matching hat. You got if you got red shoes on, you got to have a red shirt or something to go with it. Now the new school or the Gen Z type, they'll wear whatever. They'll wear pink and orange. They don't care. It's just that's how they so-called express themselves. You know what I mean? It don't matter to them.
Yeah, but you know what though? They're still trending back to our era. I always let them know that too. They're
ain't
trending
no
back
way
to
they
our,
can go, dog.
yeah, even with the music.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
So they
But I
say,
think that's
okay.
what it is. I think that's what it is, man. They just,
Mm-hmm.
just like I think that they feel like by them with this technology, everything is at the tip of their fingers. That's why they feel like they're better than us or got a leg up on us.
Mm-hmm.
Cause
I agree with that.
we didn't come from my era. We didn't have that. We had the dictionaries and the encyclopedias.
I agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And that, but the generational differences exist between Gen Z and the older generations, like baby boomers, Gen Z, whatever. Some of the key differences is that technology and digital literacy, like you were saying, Gen Z is known as the digital natives. They grow up with consistent access to internet, smartphones, and social media that has shaped communication styles, learning preferences, and their worldview. They are highly adept to using technology for learning, socializing, and consuming content. Now, while the older generation have adopted to technology, they may have the same level of intuitive understanding or integration of technology in their data lives of Gen Z, but they may prefer traditional communications, like for
we gonna
example,
call.
Communication, and be more cautious about data collection and usage. Like some old folks are not gonna put their card number on no internet nowhere.
Right.
Period.
And a lot of older people too, if you text them, they got your text and they'll read it, but they ain't gonna text you back.
They'll call you.
Yeah. As soon as you text them, if you don't want to talk to them right now, don't text them. Because if you text them something, they gonna call you right there. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's the difference, like you said, with the old school versus new.
Yep. All right. Workplace and career. Gen Z value work-life balance and seek jobs that align with their personal values. They are pragmatic and have an entrepreneurial mindset with a strong interest in creating their own opportunities. They also are flexible to work arrangements. They are, dang, bro, calm down. They are also open to flexible work arrangements and prioritize professional development. While old school, some older generations like baby boomers were known for a strong work ethic and more traditional career focused mindset, basically working a job and retiring. They have a greater preference for in-person interactions and longer or more traditional work hours. They was raised like that on the farm, so that's all they know. The Gen Z. Now Jordan told me, he's like, Gen Z's, in his age group, excuse me, they don't mind like, hey, switching jobs. Hey, this ain't working. Goodbye. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I'll catch up with you. The older people, they tend to fight through it, and I kind of tend to think that the Gen Zs can do that because, for one, they're younger, they got more opportunity, they don't have as many responsibilities as the older people have. Because once the older people get a good job, they got bills to pay. They got to raise the Gen Z type people.
Right, because like I said, a lot of Gen Z kids, people, they're a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them, kind of, they're pretty much still staying at home too.
Yeah, for sure.
So like you said, they can switch job to job, but once they get out and start getting it, getting them deals on their own, they'll probably tend to stay there for a minute. Yeah. They may, but they still, they'll still jump ship. Don't get me wrong now. They'll still jump ship. Them new Gen Zs, they'll leave the job in a minute.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. For sure. And then learning styles. Gen Z tend to be visual learners and prefer engaging, interactive content delivered through digital platforms like videos and online resources. They also value autonomy and collaboration in their learning. Older generation, they may be more comfortable with traditional lecture style formats or prefer hands-on training. Like, you know, back in the day in school, like, you know, they older people, we would think about it. We had what, about 5 classes back in the day, 5 or 6, something like that.
Six.
Yeah, you have 6 classes. Now, Gen Z, a lot of them can do stuff online. They ain't think about the college. They can do everything online. They ain't even got to go to class.
And that's what the Gen Z is so easy. They don't have a work ethic like, you know, like we had, because we had to go out and get it. They can stay in and get it. Like whether it's like you said, doing stuff online or whatever. Now, like you said, they got Grubhub.
Yeah, and
I mean, you know, they bring your food right to your front door. Like, hey, I want a milkshake. Let me hit this up. Bring it out there.
If it's raining, you know, they ain't going out to get it.
Right. Because I was at a restaurant one day and I was waiting on an order, right? I did a takeout one day and this guy, he was in there. He was like, he came in, he was like the Uber Eats, right? He was like, man, he said, I don't know how much longer I'm gonna do this, man. He said, these new people, man, he said they whack. I said, what's up, man? What you got going on? He said, man, I'm in here, man, just ordering a vanilla milkshake.
Picking up.
It's gonna take 15 minutes. Oh, you know, this was at like a Chili's restaurant or whatever, right? And I had went there and picked up something real quick. And he said after he left there, he had to wait on that order from where he got. He said when he left there, he had to go get the milkshake from somewhere else to take to another customer. And then he said a lot of times, he said the Gen Zs, the people, the new people, they get upset with him because he might get that, like they got a specific time when your food arrive, right? With the Uber Eats or whatever. If he don't get it there, he said he's seen the time where they made him take the food back to the restaurant. And he said he told them, he said, when I get to the restaurant, just like I'm in line now with you, like here waiting, he said, I don't have no control over the restaurant of their cooking schedule. He said, when they give me the order, that's when I take it out. Yeah. And he said, he running all kind of problems. Like, so they got everything right there in the palm of their hands, man. So they don't really have to go get nothing like that no more.
Yeah, man. Before we go to the break, values and perspectives. Gen Z tend to be more pragmatic and socially conscious and focused on issues like diversity, equity, and inclusion. They also prioritize mental health and well-being. Older generation may have different priorities and perspectives shaped by their formative experiences and societal norms. Like, old folk, hey, they didn't have a tendency. They didn't want to go to the doctors. Now you got the younger generation. Like, hey, if you're around that, they push like, hey, you need to, get yourself checked out, bro. Whatever, blah 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 blah. But we're gonna jump right back into this thing right here because I think it's interesting to me. The contrast and comparison. So we'll be right back after the break, y'all.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Welcome back to Man Talk 133 with Charles
yes, sir.
And Earl. So let me back up just a little bit.
Go ahead.
For the people that don't know what Gen Z is, Gen Z is roughly the ones that's born between 97 and 2012, and then the older ones would be considered born before the 80s. That's what those are the ones. So I can give them more of a contrast with what we're talking about. We're talking about 1997, 2012, and the 80s and back. You know what I'm saying? So before the 80s, you already know how it was, and now you know how it is with them. So number 5, dog. Social and cultural trends. Gen Z embrace individuality and self-expression, often using social media as a platform for communication and advocacy. They also are prone to anxiety and may experience higher levels of stress compared to previous generations. older people, old folk. That one must start calling y'all old folk. Oh,
That's me. I'm in that group.
yeah, old folk.
I'm gonna take that group. I'm gonna take that group and embrace it.
Yeah, make it work for you, Doc. Old folk may have different social norms and expectations around work-life balance, communication styles, and technology. Let me go back to this one real quick. I think the reason why they, as I said every time, Doc, I don't. Every time I get up here, somebody
got that phone call.
Somebody, dog. I don't. Every time, y'all. I'm not even joking. I think the reason why they have so much they experience high levels of stress is because you got to think about it. Social media, that's one of their main ways of expressing themselves. So when they get on social media, if they don't get the clicks, the likes, the views, hey, you look cute. Hey, was a nice outfit. Hey, I like your body. All this other kind of stuff. Then they get hurt. Old folk don't care. They gonna work.
Right. It's just like we've said before numerous of times on our show, this show right here. Like, hey, we doing it because we love it and we trying to, reach out to people.
Yeah, for sure.
Hey, we may not get the million views and all that stuff that some of these big time podcasts may get. But we don't let that bother us because we trying to reach people and we love it. You know what I'm saying?
Trying to help people,
and it's therapeutic. So you know what I'm saying? So we ain't necessarily worried about it. We ain't going out the show. Oh, we didn't get a 20,000 views, so we gonna go hang ourselves. You know what I'm saying?
Stupid.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
so
stupid.
That's with the old school people. That's how we embrace. Hey, it is what it is.
They don't care. They don't care if they. You think about it. If you've been out and you seen your old folk, they'll go out in anything. They'll go out on a shirt that got paint on it. They don't care. Young folk, they got to go out and they got to make sure they lipstick right, they edge up right. They got them. Everything got to be perfect before they step out the house. They spend so much money on shoes and clothes.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's
kind of they pretty much wear their money.
There you go.
That's what they're doing. But see, like I said, I do embrace my old age, but I know what you're saying. Unless I'm doing some work around the house, I ain't gonna go out with no painted up shirt like that.
But think about it though.
But I know what you're saying though.
Seen that, yeah. Like me, I'm with you. I'm older, but Keisha and Jordan be tripping on me because if I go anywhere, I'm ironing my stuff. I don't care what it is.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Got to pull that iron.
I'm knocking the wrinkles off.
Got to pull that ironing board out. They be like, what's that? The new school be like, what's the ironing board?
He's Gen Z. He don't care nothing about ironing.
Right.
You know what I mean? He'll get up, throw stuff on, and he's cool with that. Me, I'm just not. I gotta, I gotta have it a certain way. Now, some Gen Z, they fly, some of them don't care.
Right.
You think about this. How many times have you seen and Gen Z, I ain't talking about y'all. I'm just saying, I'm telling you what I've seen, how
just trying to help y'all a little bit.
How weird it looks. If it's 100 degrees outside, they got a sweatshirt on. Yeah, and then when it's 30 degrees outside, they stand on the bus stop shaking with short sleeves.
Every time, man, all day long, man.
I'm like, what?
Like they got a hoodie on in the summertime, but like you said, they freezing in the winter. I'm like, you ain't gonna put no jacket on or nothing. No, I'm good.
And they shivering the whole time.
Yeah, and I'll tell you another thing real quick too, man, is that you was talking about the mental health aspect of it, like the with the social media thing or whatever. See, with the old school people, with us, we are more sociable.
Yeah,
and see that by us being more sociable, like I can see somebody out, man, I'm chit chat with them or whatever, talking to them, like, hey, him? I'm like, nah, we just start chopping it up in the line, grocery store line or whatever, at Lowe's or whatever. And that's what us old school people do. We talk, what I'm saying. And the Gen Z people, they can be sitting in a room together and they'll text each other.
Exactly.
And
down
see,
fast, text you.
yeah, and see when they doing that and they all the time on social media and they texting each other from across the room and all this stuff, that don't give them the, you know, the will to communicate. And I think that's sometimes that mental health thing will creep in that way too, because what you're doing is when you're doing that, you're basically becoming what the word I'm looking for, you're basically becoming um damn, I'm forgetting the word, but it's pretty much, you know, antisocial.
Yeah,
I use that.
yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what you know, you kind of becoming that as the young general. A lot of the G and Z's are pretty much like that.
Yep. And
They're
I'm gonna
not
tell you
so.
some I'm gonna tell you some crazy stuff too, which is true. Like you talking about values and mindset, right? Then Gen Z, work ethic, value work-life balance, flexible and purpose. Old school, they value loyalty, long hours, and job security. Technology, Gen Z, digital natives raised in smartphone, social media area. Old folk adapt to technology, grow up with analog tools. Basically, they can go, you know, that old school stuff. They don't really need all that. Communication. You just talking about this. They prefer Gen Z, which is they prefer texting, memes, DMs, or short form videos. Older people prefer phone calls, emails, or face to face communication.
Yeah, we're gonna
Gen
chop it up.
Z, yeah, Gen Z in regards to mental health, open about their struggles, therapy and positive, therapy about it being positive. Old school often stigmatize mental health issues, like we talk about. You better not tell about you on them crazy pills,
Right.
you know what
Gen
I'm
Z, Gen Z, they don't care. They're gonna let you know.
saying?
They're
they
gonna
don't
let you know.
they don't care at all,
Yep.
dog, about none of that for real. Their identity, Gen Z is more fluid, inclusive, and diverse. Old school, more rigid, traditional gender and role norms. Them old folk, they believe what they believe. You stay with your people. That's it. I don't want to hear
Right.
nothing else.
Yeah.
You know,
The boys are telling me about the new school, the guys they're still working, right? They tell me about the new school people, like you was talking about the crazy pills who want to use
yeah,
that real quick. Hey, they say they be in the break room talking about that. Hey, as soon as I get off this morning, I got to go see my
third.
therapist. I need to
Yeah,
get me some more pills.
for real.
But they saying, not saying it ain't nothing really wrong with them, but they are saying now that the people are using that in the workplace.
Yeah,
So now when they use it in the workplace, the supervisors don't even bother with them.
right.
You know,
There's an
because
outpour.
there's an out for them. Yeah, because I've been told, like, supervisors have told a bunch of people to go to work at the beginning of the shift when the shift starts. And when the shift starts, the supervisor tell them to go to work, right? And then once that supervisor have told them to go to work, they'll go to the office and cry to the big boss and tell them that they're being bothered or picked on.
Yeah,
And then they'll pull the real supervisor and get on the real supervisor for making them go to work.
get on this
Because,
hiney down.
because they got that medication or therapy that's in their record. But
That
if you got all that going on there, you might not need to be in the workplace, the way I look at it.
exactly, because how you gonna get the work done when you can't focus on
Right.
getting the work done?
Because if I'm a supervisor and I tell you to go to work at the beginning of the shift, I mean, that's what we supposed to do. You don't supposed to be standing around. It's time to go to work. So if you call me in the office for making somebody go to work because they say they'll call their therapist, then you might well go and just get rid of me then.
Yeah, for real.
You know what I'm saying?
Before we go to break, this is crazy. Like, there's a little bit of research I've done about the Gen Z and old school dialogue, right? Old school say back in my day, we had to go to the library to do research. Old young Gen Z will say back in your day, dinosaurs was probably still around. Gen Z say, why work 9 to 5 for 40 years when I can freelance and travel? That's what they say.
Yeah.
Old school, because stability matters and retirement doesn't pay for itself. And that is so true. You know what I'm saying? You think
Right.
about it. All they want to do is work from home and make money that way. But hey, we're gonna jump into why the Gen Z Don't Like the Older Generation when we come back after the break, y'all.
Okay.
It's time for a vacation, and Fairway Travels is here to share great specials for you to choose from. Discover the charm and features of one of Sandal's 16 all-inclusive, luxury included, adults-only resorts, or a family-friendly beaches destination in the Caribbean. Or how about a couples resort in Jamaica? If cruising's your preference, get Thunderstroke aboard Carnival Cruise Lines or set sail on an award-winning Royal Caribbean ship. Join Virgin Voyages now for a wonderful adults-only sailing. It doesn't matter if you choose to travel by plane, train, automobile, cruise ship, or rowboat, we can help you reach your dream destination. Contact Fairway Travels today at 228-365-1012. That's 228-365-1012. Or email bookitnow247@gmail.com. Fairway Travels, where your journeys keep satisfying.
Military Broadcast Radio, the station that's giving veterans a voice.
Find us on the web at mbradio.us.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Come back to Man Talk 133 with Charles and Daryl. So before we went to break, bro, is the question that I had is why does the Gen Z not like the older generation? Now, I don't excuse me, y'all. I don't necessarily say it's a dislike. I just think that it's definitely like a little tension because the old school try to tell the new school what to do. Yeah, and the new school think they already know what the old school done because they done went AI done told them everything.
Right.
Life.
We're gonna hold that structure to them.
Yeah, true.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's why they don't like us. You know, like I said, you know, I got a 13-year-old, and she thinks she know everything. I'm like, listen,
everything.
I'm in my I'm about age. I'm like, you just came down from heaven about 13 years ago. So how you think you know everything?
You ain't lying, but know it all, right? That's all. That's what I'm saying.
Right. You know, so
yeah. So excuse me. Number one, perceived resistance. This was the old folk. Perceived resistance to change. Older generations often is seen as slow to accept social progress like LGBTQ rights, mental health awareness, climate change urgency, gender equality. Gen Z tends to view resistance to these issues as outdated or harmful. Gen Z, we're trying to move forward, but you stuck in your past. Now I've heard that a lot. Like, hey, bro, like you gotta. And it happens. I'm gonna say it like this: it happens a lot in churches because a lot of pastors get stuck in their own ways, right? And they can't get out. They can't get out their own way because they so used to giving like 1 or 2 scriptures and hollering. They teach for 10 and holler for 30. You know what I'm saying? And young folk don't gravitate to that. That ain't something that they really. They more intellectual. They like to hear. If you got something stimulating, if you can give them a scripture and break it down and get them to see it a different way, you got them. But if you get up there and give a scripture and you talking directly to them and you hollering and telling them they're wrong and how wrong they are, and you're gonna lose them. That's a fact.
Oh yeah. You said something about the LGBT.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, see, my take on that is, you know, hey, they I guess they do what they do. Now the old school, we'll push back on that. We do. I'm gonna stand on that. You know what I'm saying? I don't get down like that.
No,
you know, if that's what they do, that's what they do. But you know, the old school, I know I'm old school, so it might be some old school that get down like that, but I don't get down like that. Me as a man, I love women. But I got my wife and I'm married, but I'm just saying, you know, if I didn't have my wife, I love women.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So,
hey, bro.
So they can probably look at me and say, oh, you know, you pushing back, you know, this, you hating on us or whatever. I ain't hating on you. Like if you want, you wanna, If you want another dude in your lap, then you a guy. That's you. That ain't me.
Yeah, that
ain't my testimony.
Nah, that
You know what
ain't
I'm
me,
saying?
dog.
So,
And that's the thing about,
right.
They gotta understand, you can't both sides gotta understand. Well, you can't, everybody ain't gonna agree on everything.
Right.
I don't agree with that. You may
Right.
not agree with me being or not adapting to stuff as fast as you think I should adapt to it, right?
Right. Right.
And I'm like, hey, bro, like we got to give and take. You know what I'm saying? I don't agree with that, although you may, not you, but I'm just saying then, although they may, I don't agree with that. I don't think it's anything that two people together that can't, or two things in general together that can't produce nothing. You can't produce life. Then what's the purpose of it? You know what I mean? You can't. Two men can't produce no life. I don't care. He can't get pregnant. Neither one of two women can't produce life. She can't get pregnant by another woman. It's just what it is. I know these uncomfortable conversations, but hey, there's a difference between the Gen Z and old school. Old school will tackle it head on. Gen Z, they conform.
Yeah. And
you know what I mean?
And see, like you said, it's an uncomfortable situation. But see, that's why we're here. That's what we do. Like some people gonna like our show, and some people ain't gonna like it.
Yeah.
But oh well, we here to talk about it. You know what I'm saying? And like what you said, you can't create nothing. But my thing is going back to, like I said, to old school, from an old school view, from my point of view of it. Like you saying, if you talking about that right now, man, it ain't no way in the world. My mind don't even switch that way. Like I'm just gonna have another man with a beard like I got. He laying up in my arms and in my lap, or I'm laying in his arms in his lap. That don't work with me right there, dog.
Yeah.
I can't even see that. So I don't care if the alphabet community come at me or whatever. I'm standing on mine.
Yeah.
I can't even visualize nothing like that. Like I just don't do that. I love women.
Yeah, man. And I think the not all Gen Z, because you got some Gen Z that stand on it. They be like, nah, bro, we don't do all that. You know what I'm saying? But I think I think the Gen Z is more so like, and I think I was telling Keisha somebody, they're more so like water.
Yeah.
Whatever you pour water in, it forms to that.
Yeah, they're easily persuaded.
Yeah. So just say, like, for example, whomever they're around.
Yeah.
They're formed to that. If they're over here, they're formed to that. They form to that, instead of just being like your own. Like, nah, bro, I ain't finna do all that. That ain't how we rolling. I don't talk like that. And you ain't gonna disrespect me like that. I ain't bowing down. None of that.
Yeah, because I don't know where the disconnect came in. Like I said, I ain't got no shade on that group of people, whatever, they do what they do. But I don't know where the disconnect came in at, where, you got like two football players, looking type dudes, and they laying up in each other's arms and stuff like that. Like, I don't know how that transpired in people's minds, but I know it ain't in mine.
For sure.
You know what I'm saying? So, and that's what you're talking about the new school, when the Gen Zs, when they conform to what's the latest trend.
Yep.
The latest trend is, I'm gonna just use that, even though we ain't got no beef with that though. The latest trend is the braids. I want those. The latest trends is the tats. I want those. The latest trends is a woman supposed to date another woman, or another man, a man supposed to date another man. That's the latest trends. And if you don't do that and follow that trend, you frown upon.
Yeah, for sure.
That goes back to what you was talking about the Gen Z is like water. They conform to whatever is put in front of them.
Whatever is poured in, yeah, for sure. And so different financial realities. Gen Z is growing up in a world where wages haven't kept up with inflation. Student debt is massive. Home ownership feels way out of reach. Meanwhile, the older generations often say, hey, just work harder. I bought my first house at 25.
Yeah.
Which can feel to some of them tone deaf. And I understand it. Gen Z will say, hey, you had it easier, but you judge us for struggling. Let me say this. Y'all right now have more opportunity to make money than any time in the world. Like, dude, whenever you can take this, your phone.
That's what I was getting ready to do. Pick my phone up.
Whenever you can take this and make money with it just by talking into it. Back in the day, you couldn't do that. You remember the videos you had to have on your arm if you want to record something back in the churches. Now you can record this and post it.
That came on later on the scene. Could you imagine how much money we could have made back then? If we had these back then.
You ain't lying. The stuff we done, we would have been multi-billionaires.
Yeah, you right.
For real, some stuff.
Yeah.
So we got into somebody recording that, dog.
And let it go viral, make it go viral, whatever, man. Shoot, man. Like I said, I can't believe they said that though. We had it easier.
Yeah, dog. You know how many viral moments we would have had in one weekend.
Right. Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know how the Gen Z feel like we as the old school had it easier than they did. Yeah. I don't know how they think that.
Because let's just be real. They have been pampered and they have been, like made to feel like everything should be given to them. Now, do you remember picking cucumbers?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
And making $5, making 20 to bust down between 4 or 5 people.
Right. And it was hot, just like it's hot outside now. Yeah.
And you think they got it made when they can sit in the house, can record yourself, teaching people how to play video games, which you do all the time, and make money off of it. Dude, I don't even want to hear it. I don't want to hear none of that. Y'all have more opportunity now to make more money than anybody, any time, I feel like, in history right now.
No
but
doubt.
The thing about it, they just don't want to, whatever. The mental health stigma, older generations downplay mental health using phrases like tighten up. That's just life. Gen Z, as we talked earlier, they express more like, hey, bro, I'm just burnt out. Anxiety, I'm just tired. I just can't. I don't know if I'm able to make it. I'm had to go see my therapist. And older people, they're like, hey man, you got to be tough. Get up. You act like a little baby crying. Now sometimes they do act like punks. I ain't gonna the old folks. They do.
Yeah, they do.
They do act like punks, but like you said, they are more conscious of it could be something wrong. Like it's something like a little off with them. If I'm crying for no reason, something off. I just don't know what it is. I go see my therapist, dog. For real. So the power dynamics, baby boomers, which is and older Gen Xers still hold most political and corporate and media power, and Gen Z often feels ignored and unheard despite better educated and more global aware. Like, for example, you and I talked about this one time before. Old people, let the young people step up. You can stand on the side and teach them, especially in churches and anywhere, but we see it mostly in churches. The ushers don't want to give it up.
Yeah,
you got to get. Hey, you 85. You got to get up.
Hey,
you holding the plate like this, dog. It's shaking.
Don't lead the secretary out with them announcements.
Yeah, she don't give it up either.
Announcement way they ain't gonna let them announcements go.
Give it up. I'm saying at some point y'all got to start training young people, the Gen X people. This is the reason why they leaving corporate America. The reason why they leaving churches. The reason why they leave home and don't come back for years and years. Leave and go to the military because y'all got to start giving them a voice. If you take their voice, what else they got? I don't want to hear nothing you got to say. This is my house. Hey, bro, we'll be right back after the break.
Radio.
Thanks for tuning in. Welcome, Quack.
Opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any entities they represent.
Welcome back to Man Talk 133 with Sean and Earl. Listen, before we go to how we bridge the gap, I want to go and say this. Now, I don't think it's a dislike between Gen Z and old folk. I think it's more they feel more misunderstood. Sometimes, you know, the old folk can judge them unfairly, especially, you know, about what they wear and stuff like that.
I agree with that.
And then, you know, I think they feel like since the old folk are in charge and they've been taught, hey, respect your elders, but they're living in something that they feel is outdated, and the old folk don't want to step up into the new. They rather stay in the old because it's comfortable, and they don't want to jump up into the new to learn, hey, listen, this is what we need to do to get to here. But old folk like, no, we ain't got to do it that way. Right. I agree with the Gen Z on that.
Right. I agree with what you said about the old people. And like, you know, like how we can kind of bridge the gap.
Yeah.
You got to kind of figure out a way to bridge the gap, because I can say that a lot of older people, they do come off, you know, they can, even though they don't mean no harm, but it's their tone, the way that they come off with the Gen Z. And then on the other hand, you got the Gen Z that is so used to being, like you said earlier, spoiled.
Yeah, true that.
You can't tell them anything. So when you got a group over here that you can't tell them nothing anyway, because they was raised up and being spoiled, that you know, you can't tell them anything, or they can have it their way. And then you got a group over here that's old school, that's gonna pretty much tell you the right way, but it's their tone, the way they say it to the new Gen Z is like a stalemate. You know what I'm saying? Over here, the old school are right, but they just use the tone don't
right. Yeah, come on, rough.
The new school don't accept the tone because they spoiled. They used to being soft.
Yeah, for sure.
And they in the old school used to being hard, so it's kind of like they still got a gap in there. How to try to fix that gap. But I agree with exactly what you're saying. So you know, as far as like, you know, Gen Z, they don't accept what we tell them, and because the way the older people talk to them.
Yeah.
They can't wrap their mind around that tone. They be looking at like, yo, man, you don't know, especially the old ladies, you know, the old grandmas, they gonna give it to you.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
About it.
No, the old lady talking to me like that. She don't know me like that. You know, that's how the Gen Z is, you know. So
and that goes to the first one. Start with the mutual respect. This is how we bridge the gap. Start with mutual respect. Old folk need to stop labeling Gen Z as lazy, entitled, or soft. And Gen Z need to resist instantly dismissing older people as out of touch or problematic. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I mean, every time you tell them something that they don't agree with, you just out of touch. No, I'm trying to tell you something I done been through to keep you from going through it, so that you won't go. I'm trying to fill in the potholes for you, bro, so you can miss them or ride over them or whatever.
Exactly.
Whatever way you want to look at it, you know what I'm saying? But the younger folk, you know, let me say it like this. All Gen Zs ain't soft, because you got some of them that play football and some of them, you know, that's out there doing it. I don't call them soft. Let me say it like this. Some of them are. You guys just got to call it what it is. You got to go through the middle with it. Some of them are soft. But, you know, I don't call them to their face. I do say, hey, y'all got it made. Y'all entitled. That's a fact. It ain't no question about it. Y'all are very entitled and spoiled. It's a fact. It ain't no question about it.
They are. They really are. I mean, I don't know where I don't know. It go back to parenting, but I don't know where the disconnect. I think I got a feel where the disconnect came in at, as far as like, cause you don't talk back to your grandparents like the way some of these cats do.
Yeah, or people in leadership. Period. We was taught when we was in school.
Yeah.
You don't. If you come home and you didn't talk back to your teacher,
you better not let the parents find out. Well,
you
our
may
parents.
not want to go home.
Yeah, you'll be hanging out for a little while. Like, why he ain't coming in the house yet?
Yeah. You got to give him that paper.
Yeah,
You got to give him that paper. The way the old school was strategic though, because what they would do was, hey, you got to get this signed before you can come back to school. So now you got to give it to them, because you can't play hooky, because they got to take you to school. So you they set you up. They used to have to set you up. Create spaces for real conversation. Set up intergenerational dialogues at workplaces, schools, community groups, families, churches, all kind of places. You gotta set it up so the young folk can vent their feelings, and the old folk can listen, and the old folk vent their feelings, and the young folk can listen without judgment, or no judgment zone. Because once you can sit down and they can kind of, well, you know what? I do see what you're saying, young buck. I am going, I do gotta tighten up my wardrobe. Yeah, I do still got the bell bottom pants.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I gotta tighten up. I do got the big Steve Harvey suit. I understand. I got to
slim it down a little bit. Just,
I got
just a tad, slim it down just a tad. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Just a little bit. I see what you're saying. Then the older folk would be like, well, hey, listen, bro, you got to loosen yours up some.
Yeah.
Boy, I see your BBs down there. You can't.
Right.
You got to loosen it. It's just a little too tight.
And I think another thing too, man. That's what I was thinking about a few minutes ago, real quick. That's messed up the Gen Zs. Is when we had parents that was always. I know you heard them too. Had parents that would always say, "Well, I'm going to give my child more than what I had."
Yes, I heard.
When I was growing up, I mean, you give them, if you ask me, and that's how they become entitled and spoiled, because you done gave them too much. You done overcompensated. Of what they really need, instead of just giving the basics. Don't let them fail, but don't be going out here giving them this, and this, and then when they get a certain, because you get a certain age, it's like it ain't gonna be nothing to look for them to look forward to.
Yeah,
because you done gave them everything by 15 years old.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what you're saying, I think the parents getting it mixed up. I think they're wanting to give them and wanting them to do better than them is where they're getting it. You should want your child to do better than what you did, but you gotta help them get to that place instead of just giving them everything. Ain't gonna help them get to that spot, dog. It's just not. It's gonna hinder their growth actually, because they feel like, hey, I ain't got to work hard to do nothing. My mom and dad are gonna give it to me.
And that's where the disconnect came from. Like that right there, what I just said, what we talking about. Sure. They gave them, because you hear a lot of people, oh, I got to give my child more than what my parents gave me, this, that, whatever my dad want in the home or whatever, or my mom want in the house or whatever, and all this, and they just try to just shower gifts. And like you said, the kid don't have to work hard no more, because, hey, mom done gave me everything. Instead of letting them work for it like they should. If you got the resources to give them everything that you want to give them, hold it back and make them work for it and earn it. Then you'll give it to them piece by piece, and they'll learn value. If you ask me, you know what I'm saying. So,
let me get through this stuff we got, because dog, boy, our time this hour fly. I ain't lying.
Yeah, no doubt.
Educate each other. Older generation can teach life lessons, life skills, resilience, hands-on experience. Gen Z can share tech skills, cultural awareness, mental health tools, and how to adapt quickly in the changing world. mentorship both ways. Y'all got to mentor each other, but you got to lay the pride down to be able to do it.
Yeah, you can finish it on out since we ain't got that much time.
Okay. Meet in the middle with communication skills. Older generations can get more comfortable with digital tools, emojis, and memes. Gen Z can practice more patience with long emails, meetings, or formal settings. Find common goals. We all care about family, financial stability, health, having a purpose instead of having a purpose instead of focusing on how we get there. Focus on shared values. We celebrate each other's strengths. That's a good one. Instead of competing, recognize what each generation brings to the table. Boomers experience leadership, work ethic. Gen Z independence, adaptability, strength. Millennials bridge building, empathy, tech savviness. Gen Z creativity, inclusivity, digital fluency, activism. Now that activism thing, dog. It was some young, I'm saying not only black, but it was some older people that really did some activism, doc. They really
no doubt.
They really went through. You know what I'm saying? So I see what they saying, but I'm gonna say this real quick, then we'll get out of here. Let's see, Gen Zers this is fun fact. Gen Zers may say, I'll Google it, while baby boomer old folk say, I'll look it up in the encyclopedia. There you go.
That's me.
You got the encyclopedia, dog. But listen, we all the way out of time again, dog. I had so much more to get to, dog. We out of time again. Thank y'all for joining the show tonight. Tell a friend. Share with a friend. Y'all, hey, keep us going. We really appreciate the support. Until next time, God bless, and we'll see y'all on the next show.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to Military Broadcast Radio. As we wrap up today's show, we want to remind you that the podcast of today's episode will be available right after we go off the air. So if you missed any part of the show or want to listen again, be sure to check it out. And remember, we're here to support and honor our veterans. Your stories and experiences matter, and we are committed to giving you a platform to share them. That's right. We're here to give our veterans a voice. So don't forget to catch the podcast and stay connected with us. Giving our veterans a voice.